Hello friends, how are you? Once again, welcome to online classes. From today, we are actually teaching our syllabus. One day before yesterday, I forwarded the syllabus copy of seventh paper on WhatsApp group, and yesterday I have posted the same paper, syllabus paper, on Google Class. Friends, uh, already I almost read that syllabus. The syllabus included four units. First unit and second unit are majorly included the economic important fisheries. That fishery which is included in our syllabus because they are very good, important, those are having economically important, those fishes having a great demand in the market and their production in large scale. That's why that fishery are included in our syllabus. That's why we will see one by one fishery. In first unit, these four economically important fisheries are included, and these are mackerel fishery, sardine fishery, bombay duck fishery, and prawn fisheries. So today I will share my views regarding the mackerel fisheries. Mackerel fishery, it is also called Indian mackerel, or it is also called a gill-raked mackerel. The Indian mackerels having three species. In mackerel fishery is represented by single genus, and that genus is called the rastreliger, and it has three species. One is a rastreliger canavota, second this is a branchiosoma, and third one is a fogoni. These three species are represented total mackerel fishery, but out of three species, one species, that is the rastreliger canavota species, contributed much more, near about 90 to 92% in total mackerel production. That's why this fishery is known by single genus rastreliger and species canavota. Before start the fishery, I would like to give some important information regarding the coastal lines. India has a very vast coastal lines on three sides. On the west coast, India has a Arabian Sea. On the east side, there is a Bay of Bengal, and toward the southern part, there is a large ocean that is called the Indian Oceans. So these, when you see, look at the map, you will find that there is vast coastal lines are occurs to the India, and it measures near about 8,129 kilometers on west and as well as the east coast. On the west coast, there are five states are joined to the Arabian Sea, that is Gujarat, Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, and Kerala. While on east coast, from northern to the southern parts, there is West Bengal, Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and one more territories, that is Pondicherry. And along with this, there are two Diu Daman also available in oceans, and all these are very useful for the production of different type of fisheries. When you think about the fishery on the west coast of India, the west coast of India is very productive coast as compared to the east coast of India. And which fishery comes from the west coast of India? The major fishery, there is a mackerel fishery, sardine fishery, pomfret, eel, prawn, and bombay duck fishery, which comes from the Arabian Sea, or from the west coast of India. While on east coast of India, there is another again, sardine fishery also comes from the east coast of India. Mackerel fishery comes, catfishes, ribbon fishes, sharks, clupeids. This fishery also comes from the east coast of India. Apart from that, there is offshore fishery also. We are comes from the both coast of India, and that offshore fisheries, that is particularly mollusk fishery. In a mollusk fishery, there is edible oysters, pearl oysters, mussels, and also seaweeds also come from the both coast of India. That's why India has a vast productive coastal area. uh, so that's why major fishery which has come from both states now come to the another. First, we will see about the synopsis of the Indian mackerel fishery. What we are going to discuss, which points to be discussed under the mackerel fishery. That is first introduction about that fishery. Second, the classification of fish, contribution in total and how much contribution of that mackerel fish in total marine landing. Then we will see regarding the external features, then geographical distributions, local distribution and geographical distribution, what type of the food and feeding habit of the mackerel, what are the sexual dimorphism in mackerel fish, then size at first maturity, reproduction. In reproduction, we are going to discuss regarding the size at first spawning, sex ratio, fecundity, and shoaling layer of mackerel fish, and fisheries use of crabs and geese. Sorry. Now, what is the mackerel fishery? I will give some introduction regarding the mackerel fishery. Already I have told that Indian mackerel is a very good economically important fishery. Is represented by single genus, that is a rastroliger. It has three species. One is a canabuta, second is a branchiosoma, and third is a fogony. But out of three species, rastrical canabuta, a single species, contributes much more. That's why this fishery is represented by single genus, a single species. This fishery is very economically important. Why it is economically important? Because not only it's contributed much percentage, but it has a great demand by Indian peoples. It has a good palatable taste. This fish is very tasty. That's why it has a great demand in a market and it has a good price. Uh, this fishery, why is economic? Because it contributed more than 15% in a total marine productions. And now we will see the classification of that mackerel fishery. Mackerel fishery represented by genus Rastroliger is belongs to the class Teleostomi, subclass Actinopterygii, order Perciformes, families Comradidae, genus Rastroliger. And these three species, first species Canabuta is found in Madras coast in 1817. After that long period, the second species is reported Branchiosoma in 1851 and 1967. Third, one more species are reported, that is the Fogony. But these Branchiosoma and Fogony, they are very negligible in numbers in total contributions. That's why this fishery known by genus Rastroliger and species Canabuta. Now, already I have told the contribution of the total marine litter, that is 15%. Now we will see regarding the general distribution or local distributions of that mackerel fish. Look at the map of worlds. This is what reddish spots indicates their occurrence of mackerel fish. Generally in Indo-Pacific regions on latitudes in between 30 degree north and 30 degree south, this fishery is restricted, while on longitudinals this fishery is totally restricted on 30 degrees east and 160 degree west. The countries which occurs in that areas, particularly on longitudinal latitudes, they are Eastern Africa, North Durban, Seychelles, Madagascar, Red Sea, Persian Gulf, then Pakistan, India, including Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Cambodia, Northern Australia, then New Guinea, China, Taiwan, Philippines, and so other countries. So these reddish spots are, look at map, these reddish spots are only indicating the occurrence of mackerel fish in sea water particularly. This particularly totally restricted. This fishery is never found in America or others. Only they are totally restricted fishery in particular area. That's why is a total contribution 15% in total marine landing. Now come to the another point, that is distinguishing characters. How can we differentiate? How can we identify the mackerel fish from the other fishes? Just again come to the first figure, that is the Ganakoda. The Rastriligus is the major fish or contribution of the major fishery, that is the Rastriligus. Look at the figures. Body is laterally compressed. Body is a laterally compressed. Body divides the head, trunk, and tail. The snout is pointed. See, snout is a pointed, and cleft of the mouth is very wide. Eyes with thick adipose eyelids are present. Head length is longer than width, or head length is equal to the height of the body. Height of the body. Then trunk having two dorsal fin on the dorsal sides. First dorsal fin is larger one, second dorsal fin is small. First dorsal fin is supported with spines, and spines, first spine is longer than the second larger is the third one. So the size of spines gradually decrease towards the last years. The second dorsal fin is supported with the soft rays. The caudal fin is well forked. See, caudal fin is well forked. Lobes are pointed. On ventral side, there is a one pectoral fin is somewhat large. The anal fin is very small in size. Friends, the character of Scombridae, I will already told that the family is Scombridae. In between second dorsal fin and caudal fin, there is a 5 to 6 finlets are present. 5 to 6 finlets are present. See, these are finlets. These are finlets. These are the finlets are present. The 5 to 6 finlets are present on the dorsal and the ventral sides. In between second dorsal fin and caudal fin, and in between anal fin to the caudal fin. These 5 to 6 finlets are present, and this is character of the family Scombridae. When we think about the coloration of the body, when in fresh conditions, there is a greenish, bluish to green, tending towards the gray, towards the dorsal sides of the body. 3 longitudinal gray spots, grayish color runs along with the lateral side, above the lateral lines, and below on the belly there is a yellow color as a presence. So how can we differentiate the species Branchiosoma? Yes, 1 minute. The second species, that is Branchiosoma. Okay, how can we differentiate the Branchiosoma than the Rastriligus canaveter? Look at figure, that Branchiosoma. See here, the head length is much shorter as compared to the canaveter. The head length is shorter, and the second dorsal fin is somewhat larger. There is finlets which are present in between caudal fin is very strong, as clearly visible. And another point, that is the color combination is totally different than the Rastriligus canaveter. The bluish color, clearly bluish colors, or dark bluish colors are present on the dorsal side or back of the Branchiosoma. 16 bluish spots are occurs on the dorsal side of the Branchiosoma. The third species, Branchiosoma phabuni, is again slightly deeper than the previous two species. See, as the head length is much shorter, is very much shorter as compared to the Branchiosoma and canaveter. And look at the caudal fin. It is not well forked. It is somewhat width at present. Points lobes are pointed, but this is not forked. It is slightly deeper than the previous two species, and color combination is totally deeper than the canaveter and Branchiosoma. Whatever the spots occur, blue spots occurs on the Branchiosoma, they are not found on the phabuni. That's why you can clearly distinguish 3 species. with the help of these characters. And these two species, the brachiosaurus and pogoni, they are very small in numbers, negligible in contribution. Majorly, cannot are contributed in total marine landing or total mackerel fisheries. Uh, Now come to the another bit, that is a food and feeding habit of type of the food feeds by the mackerel fish. Friends, mackerel fish is a surface feeder fish. It found on the surface level. It is pelagic fishery. Also, it is called the pelagic fishery. It feeds on the different type of the planktons. It may be phytoplankton or zooplankton. That's why it is called the plankton feeder fish. Feeding habit of that mackerel fish intensively studied on the west coast of India at various catching centers where the production is much more annually. And the feeding habit of any fish is based on the study of feeding habit of any fish based on the stomach or gut content analysis. The examination based on the both qualitatively and quantitatively. This is what type of the foods are feeds by the fish. It is studied by the different workers qualitatively and quantitatively, and they come to the conclusion what types of the food are feeds by the that fish. So this fish is a plankton feeder fish, particularly after gut content analysis. The scientists found that the planktons are found in a large percentage in their stomach, particularly the food comprise the phytoplankton elements. In phytoplankton, there is a diatoms represented by chiefly Consinodiscus, Pleurosigma, Cytoceros, Fragilarians, Rhizosolia, and Sclerotenema. These are the phytoplanktons are found in large percentage in fish stomach or mackerel stomachs. It's along with the phytoplankton, the found in zooplankton. The percentage of phytoplankton, it may be 60-40, phytoplankton and zooplankton, it may be 60-40 or sometimes 50-50% or zooplankton, sometimes 60% and phytoplankton is 40%. That's why that fish are particularly called the plankton feeders. In zooplankton particularly, the different type of organisms, food organisms, animal organisms are found in their stomach, and that is particularly crustaceans as well as copepods. Then other annelid animals also present. In crustaceans, there is a different type of prawns, stages of prawns, different type of stage, microscopic prawns are, or you can say that is a Nices, Suia, Metazoea, such stages are found in stomach of mackerel fish. And apart from that, the annelid worms also found in fish stomachs. Uh, Again, one more thing, interesting thing found in the Indian mackerel, particularly food and feeding habit of that fish is gradually changed along with the age of the fish. It's not permanent at the early stage of life or up to the juvenile stage. The feeding is different. When it become after juvenile, again it changes the feeding habits. The different workers, while examining the stomach content or gut content of different stages of different larval stages of fish, he found that at Madras coast, particularly the study carried out on Madras coast, the post-larval stage, the major 5 to 6 millimeter, the said to be herbivorous fish. It feeds on diatoms and algae. In juvenile stage, it feeds on the group of the mixed type of the food materials. That juvenile, that is a major 25 millimeters range, and after that, when post juvenile stage or the fish become adult It range between 35 to 224 millimeters. It become a carnivorous. Generally, it feeds on the larva and juvenile fishes. The feeding habit of the mackerel fish gradually change from larvas to the adult. Why? Because that underdevelopment of the gill rakers in the gills. Gill rakers are very larger in size in the mackerel fish. They are feathery like. The first gill arch consists, there is 20 to 24 gill rakers on upper limb and then 24 to 32 gill rakers in lower limbs. And these gill rakers are very large in size, feathery and grown, fully grown in large scales. That's why under larval stage, the glycans are not fully developed. That's why it feeds on the particular type of the phytoplankton. It may be phytoplankton or it may be zooplankton. But fish grows on large size. Along with growing large size, the glycans are fully developed, and due to that fully grown, it changes their feeding habit. The glycans functioning as a sieve. Sieve means in Marathi it is called sarni. The filtration capacity, filtration of food takes properly after growing the gill rakers in a large size. That's why the feeding habit changes in the mackerel fish. Now, another bit which is sexual dimorphism, size at first maturity. Friends, mackerel fish is a heterosexual fish. Both sexes are separate. But both sexes are not distinguishable from one another. There is no single external characters for differentiating the male and female. The two sexes only can be differentiated by the gonadal examinations when fish attain a length 12 centimeters or after 12 centimeters, when the fully gonads are developed with help of the gonadal examinations, you can differentiate it whether it is a male or female. Before that, by external character, we cannot differentiate sexual diversity. We cannot differentiate whether it is male or female. Or generally, we can say there is no sexual dimorphism characters found in a mackerel fish. In some cases, there is hermaphroditism also occurs in mackerel fish, but very rare in percentage. What is a hermaphroditism? Both sexes are present in a single body. That is means both gonads, that is the ovary and testes, are present in a single bodies. That's why that fish is called the hermaphrodite fish. Now come to the maturity. When the fish attain the maturity, on this maturity stage, on the maturity aspects, different workers worked on these aspects. Size at first maturity. What is the maturity size of mackerel fish? When the fish become mature, what is the size of first maturity? Different workers works. Yeah, among that the Pradhan, Sheikh, Chidambaram, Venkatam, Shah, all so many workers have worked on these aspects. But only I have taken a few work of the scientist, the Pradhan, particularly in 1956. First, he recorded the maturity of mackerel fish when it grows 22.4 centimeter at Karwar. At Karwar, he studied at Karwar in 1956, and he found that mackerel attained first maturity when fish grows 22.4 centimeters. But the observation recorded by the other workers at the same centers or other centers, particularly Chidambaram and Venkatraman, in 1946, 1962, and 1962 also. That is, he found that the mackerel attains first maturity in between 19 and 22 centimeters. In between 19 and 22 centimeters. So, earlier than the Pradhan. Says then the first maturity, generally the mackerel fish attain first maturity by the end of second year. Just when the fish grows 22 centimeters or near about, it is the second year. By the end of second year, it attains the first maturity. Now come to the spawning. After the attending this maturity, fish spawning takes place. Spawning means eggs are laid outside the body, inside the water. That is spawning. Spawning, egg laying, or egg means that is our gametes expelled outside the body. That process is called the spawning. Gametes are expelling our gametes outside the body. That is called the spawning. And spawning period is a very prolonged. Fish, the mackerel spawns having a prolonged spawning periods. Spawning season have been determined by the gonadal examinations and ova diameter measurements. The workers again worked on these aspects and they found that, and he determined what is the spawning period of that mackerel fish by the help of the gonadal examinations, as well as the size of gonads, as well as the size of ova in the ovary. Spawning period, already I told, the mackerel spawns throughout the years in several batches. Mackerel spawns throughout the years in several batches. There is specific interval. This several batches means it may be 2 or 3 or 4 batches. In general, intensive spawning takes place about June to August, and supplementary spawning also noted in the month of April and May. During this period, fishes spawns. It may be 3 batches, it may be 4 batches. In 2 batches, there is a particular interval is available. In between 2 batches, there is an interval of, it may be 1 month or it may be 2 months. So, spawn, according to the nature of spawning, fishes are divided in 2 categories. One is the prolonged spawning period fishes, and second is a short spawning periods. Those fishes spawns once a time in a year, that is called the short spawning period. And those fishes spawn several times in a year, that is called the prolonged spawning period. Those fishes spawn several times. When you dissect the fish and found under the microscope, you will find that the ova which is present in ovary with different stages. You have studied in B.Sc. second year the stages of ova. There are 7 stages of ova in ovary. For the attending the maturity or gonad maturity, the fish has passed to the different stages, 1 to 7 stage. First stage, second stage, up to the 7th stage, and the eggs become mature. And after attending the mature or ripe eggs, they start the spawnings. Those fishes spawn once a time in a year. That eggs are found in ovary in the same size at a time. But those fishes spawn several times in a year in several batches. In that ovary, you will find that the different stages of ova at a time. That's why those ova become fully ripe, only that eggs are expelled outside the body. And that's why the spawning period is very prolonged in that fishes. Now come to the fecundity. Fecundity is the egg-laying capacity of female fish. How much eggs are laid by the female fish in particular spawning seasons or total years. The fecundity can be defined by different ways, but particularly simple definition, egg-laying capacity of female fish. When you think about the fecundity of Indian mackerels, the worked on this work, particularly Davidson and Johns worked on these aspects, and he estimated roughly 94,000 eggs in the mackerel fish or mature mackerel fish, a ripe mackerel fish. According to Devens and John, Indian mackerel liberated eggs or spawning takes place three times, three batches, and they estimated that fecundity of mackerel in the range of 28 to 30 centimeter long fish. He liberated the eggs. Number of eggs in first, second, third batch is 45,000 in first batch, 29,000 in second batch, and 38,000 in third batch, and totally it lies the egg 1,10,000 in single spawning season. Single spawning season. So throughout the year, if fish spawns in three batches, though fish attain the length that 28 to 30 centimeter, 32 centimeter, it may be lies eggs 1,10,000 in total 1 year. But it is not a single spawning, it is a now come to the another point. The remaining points we will be discussing in next video.